The rules 1980s kids obeyed were never written down anywhere. Nobody posted them on the refrigerator, and no kid ever heard most of them said out loud more than once. They lived in a glance across a crowded room, a chair nobody else sat in, a greeting recited into the telephone like a password. And the most powerful rule of all required no words at all. Somewhere across every crowded room sat a parent who could end a behavior with their face. The look required no volume and no vocabulary. A kid could be halfway through showing off for the cousins, feel the air change, glance up, and find two eyes already waiting. Conversation around the adults continued uninterrupted. The kid sat down, folded both hands, and became a portrait of good behavior, and no other guest at the party ever knew a sentence had been served. Ask anyone who received the look to describe it, and they will not use words. They will simply make the face 40 years later with perfect accuracy. The living room held a second law, and this one had upholstery. Every house had one chair that belonged to one person. Nobody assigned it. There was no name on it and no rule posted above it. Yet a lazy boy recliner angled at the television belonged to a father, the way a throne belongs to a king. A kid could sit in it, technically, the way a person can technically touch a stove. The moment the garage door sounded, that chair emptied on its own. Grandchildren today flop across furniture without a thought, and there are grandfathers who still feel a small jolt watching it happen. Down the hallway, a small gold dial ran the entire climate of childhood. The round Honeywell thermostat on the wall was set by one licensed operator per household. Children were not cold. Children were told to put on a sweater. Nudging that dial 2 degrees counted as spending money, and the heating bill got discussed at dinner like a member of the family. Some kids grew up, bought houses of their own, and stood in front of their own thermostats feeling faintly criminal. The dial turned either way, but only one hand in the house was allowed to prove it. The kitchen ran on stricter laws than the hallway. An hour before dinner, the kitchen closed. A kid could stand in front of an open refrigerator, starving, staring at leftover meatloaf, and a voice from another room would arrive. Without footsteps. You will spoil your appetite. No court heard appeals. Hunger counted as proof that dinner would be enjoyed properly, never as grounds for a snack. The same kid who could not have one cracker at 5 was expected to clear a full plate at 6 and somehow, almost always, did. When the holidays came, the kitchen table itself pulled rank. At Thanksgiving and Christmas, the dining room belonged to the adults, and a folding card table appeared in the corner for everyone under a certain age. Metal folding chairs, a paper tablecloth, and a clear view of the real table where the good dishes lived. Nobody ever explained the promotion process. A kid simply waited, year after year, for a chair to open at the big table, usually inheriting it from a cousin who left for college. People in their 50s still remember the exact year they got called up, and some remember who they replaced. At the big table, posture was policy. Elbows stayed off the table and the table knew it. The rule arrived from grandparents, who got it from their grandparents, and no one in the chain ever asked why. When the meal ended, a kid did not simply stand up. The words came first, "May I be excused," delivered to the head of the table, and departure waited on a nod. The nod was almost always given. The asking was the entire point. A kid learned that leaving a table was a transaction, and that somebody at that table outranked them. Standing up early was one violation. Finishing early created a different problem entirely. Dinner ended when everyone finished, and a fast eater learned patience the slow way, sitting in front of an empty plate while a younger sibling pushed peas in circles. The table was a meeting, and the meeting adjourned together. Wednesday night television started at 8, and a kid could hear the theme song from the dining room. And that theme song changed absolutely nothing. Families ate together and left together, and the empty plate stared back the whole time. One machine on the kitchen wall had its own rule book. The telephone got answered with a script. "Hello, Miller residence, this is Kevin speaking." A kid recited it exactly every single time because the caller might be a grandmother, a pastor, or a father's boss. And the family's reputation traveled through that receiver. One sloppy "yeah, who is this?" delivered even once earned a full retraining. Kids practice the greeting under supervision the way soldiers practice a salute. Decades later, some of those kids still answer their cell phones with a formality that confuses everyone under 30. If the call came during dinner, a second rule took over. A friend who called during dinner got one sentence: "He is eating, he will call you back." The kid at the table heard every word and moved not one muscle toward the phone. Dinner outranked friendship, and everybody on both ends of the line understood the ranking, because the same rule ran in the friend's house too. The phone hung there through the whole meal, silent, patient, holding whatever news a sixth grader thought could not wait. It always waited. Messages were a formal document in that house. When the answering machine cassette clicked and a voice left a message, writing it down became a clerical duty. Name, number, time, and the message itself, word for word, on the pad by the phone. A kid who scribbled Bob called no number faced questioning worthy of a courtroom. Which Bob? When? About what? The pad by the phone was a legal record, and a garbled message that cost a father a plumbing appointment got discussed for a week. Some families still have those pads in a drawer, half filled, in a child's careful handwriting. The television across the room ran on a permission system. The television turned on when the homework was finished, checked, and approved in that order. Approved meant a parent looked at it, sometimes line by line, sometimes with one glance that carried the full weight of an audit. A kid learned to negotiate nothing. The show being missed carried no weight, and neither did the playground conversation it would cost tomorrow. Math first. The set stayed dark until the math said otherwise. Even with homework cleared, one channel stayed rationed. MTV arrived in 1981, and parents heard it before they ever watched it. Music television got rationed like sugar, an hour here, weekends maybe, volume down. Then a committee of Washington wives held Senate hearings about song lyrics in 1985. Warning labels started appearing on record albums. And in house after house, the rationing tightened almost overnight. A kid watched videos with one thumb on the channel button and one ear on the staircase. Some parents sat and watched alongside, arms folded, issuing verdicts on Madonna between songs. The verdicts were rarely favorable. One piece of paper held both governments of a kid's life together. Homework went home, got done, and came back signed. A parent's signature at the bottom of a worksheet was a nightly treaty between the school and the house, and the kid served as the courier who could forge nothing. The worst nights were test nights, standing beside the chair while a parent studied a red 68 at the top of a spelling test, pen hovering above the line, saying nothing at all. That silence lasted longer than any lecture. Most teachers could spot a trace signature by October, and a kid who tried one learned that the two governments compared notes, and that extradition between them was immediate. Inside the classroom, the grammar itself was regulated. Adults got answered in full, "Yes, sir," "No, ma'am," "Yes, Mrs. Patterson." A flat "yeah" aimed at a teacher landed like a dropped plate, and the silence after it taught the lesson before any adult said a word. The "sir" and the "ma'am" marked the line between big and small, and every kid knew exactly which side of the line they stood on. Plenty of those kids are in their 50s now and still cannot address a police officer without the "ma'am" arriving on its own. Trouble at school triggered the oldest rule on the books. A detention slip never finished its work at school. Whatever the school handed down, the house matched it and raised it, automatically, no hearing scheduled. The walk home with that slip in a backpack lasted roughly one geological era. A kid caught talking in class served the detention, then lost the television, then wrote the apology, and the teacher received a phone call of thanks from the parent for the discipline. The school and the house stood on the same side, always, and a kid stood alone on the other. Appeals did not exist because the appeals court was the same judge. Company at the front door activated a whole ceremony. In house after house, when a grandmother walked into the room stood up. Kids came off the couch without being told, offered the good seat, and stayed standing until she settled. The habit ran so deep that kids rose for aunts, neighbors, and total strangers, delivering the Avon order. Nobody framed it as respect out loud. The body simply learned it, the way a body learns a stairway in the dark. The adults themselves came in one name format only. Every adult had a title welded to their name. The man next door was Mr. Kowalski for 18 straight years, through birthdays, barbecues, and 1,000 driveway conversations. And no kid ever learned his first name until the funeral. First names belonged to other adults. A kid using one felt the temperature of a room drop before the second syllable landed. Some neighbors eventually offered, "Just call me Ray," and the kid physically could not do it. By then, Mr. had fused to the man permanently. As far as any kid on that street knew, it was his actual first name. Other people's houses came with the strictest code of all. A kid visiting another family operated under diplomatic protocol. Eat what is served, every bite, and compliment it. Thank the mother by name on the way out, and never, under any circumstance, open their refrigerator, because a refrigerator was a vault, and a guest with the door open was a scandal that would reach home before the kid did. The mothers had a network. News moved through it faster than the evening paper. A kid who behaved beautifully at the Hendersons heard about it at dinner, and a kid who did not heard about it sooner. Outside the house, one taped-up sign could freeze a kid's hands in place. Every store with breakables had the sign. You break it, you bought it. And every kid walked those aisles like a museum guard was watching. Because one was, and she was pushing the cart. "Look with your eyes, not with your hands," came the voice from behind. The exact words every kid in America heard in the exact same tone. Hands went into pockets or behind the back. A kid could stare at a shelf of glass figurines for a full minute, hands locked behind them, vibrating slightly. The discipline held because the alternative was unpayable. Nobody had allowance money priced for crystal. Twice a year, the rules put on their best clothes. Church, grandma's birthday, and school pictures demanded the good clothes, and the good clothes demanded suffering. Stiff collars, tights that itched, church shoes that pinched from the first step, and a part combed into the hair so straight it could have been drawn with a ruler. Complaints received one answer: you can be uncomfortable for 1 hour. The hour was never 1 hour. A kid sat through the service, the lunch, and the long goodbye in the driveway, wilting in polyester, understanding that appearance was a family duty. And comfort was a weekday privilege. The photograph survived, and in every single one, the caller is visibly winning. The last rule outlived the gift that caused it. Every gift produced a handwritten thank you note, no exceptions, including gifts a kid hated. A grandmother in another state mailed a sweater, and within the week, a note traveled back. "Dear Grandma, thank you for the wonderful sweater. I will wear it a lot." The kid wrote it at the kitchen table under light supervision, and a parent read it before the envelope sealed, checking for warmth the way a foreman checks a weld. Hallmark sold the cards, but the labor was entirely local. The sweater was never worn a lot. The note said so anyway, and everybody involved understood the arrangement. Nobody wrote these rules down, and nobody needed to. Some were kind, some were harder than they had to be, and kids absorbed them all the same way, through the air of the house. If one of these just came back to you, the look, the card table, the greeting recited into the phone, say which one in the comments. Because somebody out there got the same look across a different living room. And if this house feels familiar, subscribe. There are more rules where these came from.